Have you ever stepped into an elevator and wondered why the floor buttons almost always go up and down in a straight vertical line instead of being laid out like a calculator or a computer keyboard? It seems so ordinary that most of us never question it. Yet this simple design has a surprisingly thoughtful story behind it. The arrangement isn't just about saving space. It also helps people find their floor faster, reduces mistakes, and even makes elevators easier to use during emergencies. So why did this become the standard? Let's ride through the fascinating history and clever design decisions behind those familiar buttons. Right here, on History of Simple Things. The earliest passenger elevators in the mid-1800s were manually operated by attendants rather than passengers. These operators controlled the elevator using large levers and stopped at requested floors. Everything changed as automatic elevators became practical during the early 20th century. As buildings grew taller and elevator operators gradually disappeared, passengers needed a simple and reliable way to choose their destination themselves. Manufacturers experimented with different control layouts, but by the mid-1900s, vertical rows had become the preferred arrangement. As elevator standards evolved, consistency became increasingly important so people could use elevators confidently regardless of the building they entered. The biggest reason elevator buttons are arranged vertically is surprisingly straightforward. Buildings are vertical. Every floor is stacked above or below another, so placing the buttons in a vertical column mirrors the actual structure of the building. When you look at the panel, the higher buttons generally represent higher floors, while the lower buttons represent lower floors. This creates an intuitive mental map. Even if you don't consciously think about it, your brain naturally associates upward movement with higher positions and downward movement with lower ones. Instead of searching through a grid of numbers, you can quickly move your eyes up or down until you find the floor you need. That small design choice makes navigation almost effortless. Elevator designers also think about efficiency. During rush hours in office buildings, hospitals, and hotels, people often have only a few seconds to enter the elevator, press a button, and make room for others. A vertical arrangement helps speed up that process. Your eyes can scan a single column much faster than searching across multiple rows and columns. The layout also reduces the chances of pressing the wrong button because each floor has its own clearly separated position. That might seem like a minor benefit, but when thousands of people use an elevator every day, saving even a second or two per passenger adds up. For very tall buildings with dozens of floors, manufacturers sometimes divide the buttons into two neat vertical columns instead of one long column. Even then, the numbering still follows an easy-to-understand upward sequence. Another important reason for the vertical layout is accessibility. Elevator control panels are designed to work for people of different heights and abilities. Standards in many countries specify where buttons should be placed so they can be reached comfortably by wheelchair users while remaining convenient for standing passengers. A predictable vertical arrangement also helps people with visual impairments. Many elevator buttons include raised numbers and braille beside them. Since the buttons are always arranged in a familiar order, users who rely on touch can quickly locate the correct floor without needing to memorize a completely different layout in every building. Consistency is especially valuable because elevators are used in countless public places where people may be visiting for the first time. The vertical arrangement isn't just practical, it also works well with how people think under pressure. During emergencies, people can become anxious and make decisions more slowly. A familiar button layout reduces confusion and allows users to find their destination almost automatically. The same principle appears in many other everyday designs. Thermometers, fuel gauges, and volume sliders often move vertically to represent increasing or decreasing levels. Elevator panels borrow that same visual language, making them immediately understandable even to someone who has never been inside a particular building before. Because nearly every manufacturer follows a similar layout, people rarely need to stop and figure out how the controls work. You might wonder why elevators don't simply use a keypad like a telephone. While that could save space, it would actually slow many people down. A keypad forces users to search for numbers in a two-dimensional grid instead of following the building's natural up and down order. Some modern high-rise buildings have adopted destination dispatch systems, where passengers choose their floor on a touchscreen in the lobby before entering the elevator. Even in these advanced systems, the digital floor lists are often displayed vertically because people still find them quicker and more intuitive to understand. Sometimes the oldest solution remains the best one. The next time you step into an elevator, take a moment to notice the control panel in front of you. That simple vertical row of buttons represents more than a convenient way to choose a floor. It reflects decades of engineering, ergonomic research, accessibility improvements, and careful observation of how people naturally interact with their surroundings. It's a perfect example of how the most effective designs often go unnoticed because they simply feel intuitive from the moment we use them. It's fascinating to realize that an object we encounter almost every day has been refined over generations to make our lives easier without demanding our attention. From towering skyscrapers to neighborhood apartment buildings, that familiar button layout has become a universal language that millions of people rely on every single day. Sometimes the smartest inventions aren't the ones packed with flashy technology. They're the quiet, dependable designs that work so well, we never stop to wonder why. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.